Hi, I'm Persky and welcome back to my new Tomb Raider Anniversary any percent no bug jump video guide. This is the final part and it's going to focus on the Lost Island, the last country, which makes up more than a third of the entire run. So, let's get started. At the end of Egypt, Natla and her minions took away Lara's guns, and this carries over into Lost Island, so for the time being we are gunless. This is bad of course, because we need guns to do airwalks and fall damage cancels. Get behind the waterfall and make your way to the upper part of the room. Here's an optimization that I like to do. Try to grab this pole on the far right. This causes Lara to grab this ledge here further on the left, which saves a bit of time over grabbing it anywhere else. Once that's done, back jump onto this rope here, let go immediately and then jump to the other crate. Then turn left, run forward a little bit and jump to that rope. This entire sequence of actions can be pretty difficult. These suspended crates act pretty weird sometimes and it's easy to fall off, but at least you can normally pull yourself back up. The next part is the difficult one. Normally you're supposed to swing to that ledge and then back jump to the exit, but we're gonna swing to the exit directly. The best setup that I have for this is to keep holding forwards once you're on the rope and swing back once. Then, once you're almost back, let go of forwards and hold right for just a moment and then hold forwards again. Then just jump to the exit. You might have noticed that something weird happened when Lara interacted with that ledge there. Actually, there's a variety of ways that Lara can interact with that ledge. Sometimes she will just grab the ledge normally, in which case you just pull yourself up and keep going. Sometimes Lara will land on the edge rather than grabbing it. If this happens, you also need to hold forward and start mashing space. If you don't do this, Lara will just fall back down and you need to pull yourself up again. And sometimes, for whatever reason, you will land on the ledge, but your camera will also flip by 180 degrees. If that happens, you need to hold back and spam space. That's what you saw me do earlier. If you don't, you again will fall down and need to pull yourself up again. That trick, by the way, where you press right for just a moment to turn on the rope isn't perfectly consistent. Often you will just turn too far for some reason, even if you only press right for a moment. Once we're done, we swan dive through this corridor to get some FPS slides. This room here is the level's main area. Lara's guns are in that container there. Normally you're supposed to collect a bunch of fuses in this level, put them into a control room and then use them to break open the roof of the container to get to the guns. Thankfully, there's a workaround. Whenever you grapple in this game, Lara's interaction hitbox extends forwards for a moment. This is true even if you only grapple for a moment, like if you're grappling against a wall. That also means that you can interact with objects behind walls if they are immediately behind them. This trick can be abused to grab the guns through the back wall of the container. What you want to do in order for this to work is run towards this line here at a 45-degree angle. Once you touch the wall, use the grapple. When you see this interaction symbol show up in the corner, it means that the guns are now interactable. The time window for you to grab the guns is very small, and the most consistent way for me to get them is to just spam E. Once you're slightly past this corner of the container, do a short jump and get an airwalk from this board on the ground. Here, side roll to the top of this other board, roll underneath this slope, then back roll up it, and then just follow the wall. That's a pretty easy way to get out of bounds here. Be a bit careful not to accidentally go back inbounds through this corridor here, though it has never happened to me. Make sure you go back inbounds right behind the barrier so that you can catch the loading trigger. Now at this point we could just airwalk to the other side of the room like this. It is where we're supposed to get after all. However, this isn't going to happen because this room actually contains an optional pickup that we're going to get. Position yourself right above this beam coming out of the lava and then just let go of aim. These guns are going to save a significant amount of time in the final battle, so it's easily worth it to get them. Next, get an airwalk from that rock and then make your way across the room. Make sure to roll up that slope at least once so that you're high enough to make it to the exit. In this room you want to get an airwalk from that rock, which is kind of precise. When you have the airwalk, make your way up the room using all of these slopes here. Right here at the entrance to the pyramid gate area there's a large cutscene trigger. We're gonna try to avoid that one completely. For that we need to get up to the top of this rock using an airwalk. There's an area above the rock where you can clip out of bounds through the wall. No, you can just safely roll up on the right of this rock to get up there, but there's a slope in the middle that you can ascend faster. Unfortunately, if you're not careful, you can slide off and accidentally end up in the cutscene trigger. So this is just an optimization that you don't have to do. While you're out of bounds, be careful not to clip back in, specifically here. The slope of the pyramid extends much further right than you'd think it would. There's a loading trigger in the middle of this hallway, so when going back in bounds, make sure that you either go through it or land in front of it, or else you have to go back. Also, you have to do a fall damage cancel here. Aim jumps do a lot more fall damage for some reason. Make your way through this corridor using swan dives. This is another good place for FPS sliding. Behind this door is the start of what we call the vertical room, this massive tall room that you need to get to the top of. This section is easily one of the scariest parts of the run. Immediately behind this door there is a cutscene that spawns a bunch of enemies once it's over. We will however be skipping the first part of the room. Get an airwalk from the base of this pillar, then start back rolling up the pillar until you're about at the same height as this area on the other side. Move over to this corner and start back rolling into it. After a short while you will go out of bounds. What we have to do now is walk through this loading trigger here without going back in bounds, and then go around the room on the left. This is what it looks like if it worked right. If you didn't walk forwards enough or you weren't close enough to the corridor, you will miss the trigger and the area won't load. And if you walk too far or you're too close to the corridor, then you might accidentally clip in bounds. This is bad because it means you have to walk back to the last room and try again. Also, when you do this trick you may trigger a checkpoint. Even though you don't want to be down there, getting this checkpoint is actually a good thing. I will explain why later. Next you need to aim jump on top of this platform out of bounds. This might look scary, but it's actually completely consistent. Next get an airwalk from this ledge. You have to be careful though, this ledge is broken, you cannot grab it, you can only get an airwalk from it. Next shoot this target to trigger the next platform. Then when you're underneath it, let go of aim, quickly press jump and then grapple. If you're wondering about the music, shooting this target is supposed to spawn an enemy, but unless you shoot the first target, which we skipped, no enemies actually spawn in here. As you can see, we just got a checkpoint, and technically that's true, but in actuality there's a weird bug going on in this room. The trigger for the cutscene that I mentioned earlier is somewhere around here. It's still there because we never watched the cutscene. There's a number of checkpoints in this room, one for each platform. The weird thing is, if you die and respawn or just reload anywhere in this room while one of these checkpoints is active, without having watched the cutscene first, it will just start playing. Not only this, but after the cutscene you will respawn at the bottom in a room filled with enemies. My best guess why this happens is that maybe like the null position of the area is down there in the trigger, so the game temporarily spawns Lara there before she's moved to her respective checkpoint. But I'm just guessing. If you fail, you have to redo all of it. And that is why this is one of the scariest parts of the run. If that happens, then the backup strat is to first of all shoot that demon on the right there and then do the same trick again basically. If you don't shoot the demon, he will most likely stop you. The upside to this is that this doesn't happen twice. Once you've seen the cutscene, all the checkpoints in the vertical room work normally. And to get back to earlier, the reason why triggering this checkpoint is a good thing is because we haven't actually triggered any checkpoint since before we've entered the pyramid. So if you die here without the checkpoint before getting to the next checkpoint, like during this grapple here for example, then you won't respawn here, you won't respawn in the cutscene, you will respawn all the way back here. There's one more thing I want to show that's not relevant for the run, but it is interesting. I mentioned before that there's no enemy spawning here because we didn't shoot the first target. Well, if we do shoot the first target and then trigger the cutscene afterwards, either by dying or by going there, well, you just get stuck like this. You can still pause, but aside from this there's nothing you can do here. Well, let's get back to the run. Once you're on the first platform inbounds, get an airwalk. Then roll up the slope on the wall here to gain some height. Then roll on top of this enemy pod to gain some more. You need to shoot this target to trigger the next platform. While you're shooting it, make your way to the opposite side of the room. Also, try not to get too close to this particular target. If you do, your camera will start randomly flipping around. You can see that happen here. Quickly let go of aim and then jump to this ledge. Get another airwalk from this platform and then again gain some height from the slope in the corner. Go to the opposite side of the room and then gain some height from another enemy pod. Get up this slope and then turn around and forwards roll into it once to gain just a little bit of extra height. The next trick is a risky one that a lot of runners don't like to go for. This might not look that intense, but you can only barely make this jump. If you jump just a little bit too late, you will have lost too much height and you won't make it. And if you don't make it, you have to redo the entire room. The safer alternative strat is to instead jump to these ledges in the corner. Once you're up here, grab this 50 caliber ammo. You need to get through this corridor relatively fast in order to make the cycle and not get crushed here. It is unlikely to happen, but you really don't want to get crushed here, because again, the last checkpoint was in the vertical room. At the end of the crushers there's a checkpoint, which means you're finally safe. You won't respawn in the vertical room anymore. There's kind of a tricky airwalk here on this edge. Get this 50 caliber ammo and then again get an airwalk. The next trick requires some loading area manipulation. Right in the middle of this doorway that we're in right now, there is a loading trigger. There's another loading trigger in the doorway to the corridor that we just came out of. So the two corridors in this room are 3 distinct loading areas. You need to walk into the right half of the door frame like this while an airwalk is active. Also slightly angle your camera to the right, which will slide Lara left. When she stops sliding, it means that you're in position now. The loading trigger is right here. All you need to do now is roll. As I explained in the first part, any loading area that borders the currently loaded one is partially loaded. That means that in this case, this square room here is partially loaded, so all of the collision is still there, but it's invisible. The important part is that the corridor on the left is now completely unloaded. It basically doesn't exist. In order to find the invisible path to this corridor, I usually side roll 3 times, then turn 90 degrees and then side roll towards where the corridor is. So now we're completely out of bounds and we can make our way directly to the level exit. Next is torso skip, one of the last major skips in the run. The idea is to skip the entire boss fight at the beginning of the last level. This is one of the most notorious skips though, partially due to how late in the run it is. In the boss room, there's a way to clip out of bounds that's technically not all that difficult. First, you need to get an airwalk from the ledge behind you immediately after loading into the room. This is scary because if you mess this up just once, then the boss can swipe you. This means you have to reload because he won't let you back up either. When you have your airwalk, you can roll against the wall on the left to descend. Once Lara's head is about on level with the floor, move over to the other side of the room. Now run towards this corner at a 45-degree angle and right before hitting it start spamming roll. So all that by itself isn't that difficult. Unfortunately, it also isn't that useful. We are out of bounds now, but the next area isn't loaded, and unfortunately the loading trigger is inbounds. And as far as I know, there's no way to trigger it from here. So, there's a way to clip out of the room, but you can only load the next area inside the room. Therefore, the solution is to load the next area first and then clip out of the room. That means we need to strategically roll into the loading trigger to load the next area while a boss is attacking us. And on top of that, loading the next area also means partially unloading this one, so we need to do the clip blind in an invisible room. Once you have your airwalk, just go to the door immediately. You can just go through the torso boss. He will try to stomp you, but while you're airwalking he can't hit you unless you're really close to him for some reason. To me personally, this part, unloading the room, is the hardest one in the skip. There's a bunch of different setups that people use to do this. I'm gonna show you mine. You need to walk into the side of the door frame backwards like this. You can use the lines on the floor and wall to tell exactly where the loading trigger is. Aim the camera slightly to the left of those lines. Then roll, and at the exact moment that Lara's hands hit the ground while rolling, slightly aim the camera right. This setup isn't perfect, but it is pretty decent. For the next part, I've pretty much just memorized the exact movements that I do in order to navigate through the invisible room. I do one back roll away from the door, then 4 side rolls diagonally to the back left, then I do one back roll and walk left until I hit the wall. Then I left roll twice to lose height, and then I roll to the right 5 times. Then I turn to the right by 45 degrees and move forward left until I hit the platform. Once I'm here, I just walk forwards, still with the camera angled at a 45-degree angle until I has completed 2 steps, then I start spamming roll. This was a lot of information, but once you've memorized this part actually becomes relatively easy. If the part at the end where you actually clip out of bounds didn't work, then it means you're either too high or too low, so you clipped on top of or below the platform. If that happened, then you can use the wall on the left to lose height again, and you can actually use the wall on the right to gain height for some reason. Once you've made it, go back and bounce through this pillar here and start back rolling into it to gain some height. Don't roll up against it too much though. In some rare instances it can push you up really high and then you won't be able to load the next area. Right in the next corridor, start rolling against this corner here. Once the roof lines up with a camera like this, start walking against the wall to get out of bounds. Somewhere around here there's a pretty massive loading trigger that's very easy to get into from out of bounds. There's yet another trigger that we touch from out of bounds here. Be careful to touch this one on the right side rather than in the middle, because if you're in the middle it's possible to clip in bounds. Aim jump right in front of the boss room here and do a fall damage cancel. In the first video I explained that we do not use manual aim, because it automatically homes in on any enemies that you're looking at. We use advanced hold instead, Well, in the Natla fight it is very difficult to aim at any specific target on advanced hold, so we quickly go into the options and change to manual aim instead. Also, make sure to switch to the 50 caliber pistols here before the battle starts. You should have exactly 75 bullets. The Centaur fight and this one are the only two battles that you actually have to do in this run. Thankfully, it is a lot more predictable. First of all, while manual aim is active, as long as you don't move the mouse, Lara will always focus on one specific target. By flinging the mouse in a specific direction, you can change target. As you can see, Natla has 3 different targets: her body, which right now is completely invulnerable, and her wings, which are her weak spots. When the battle starts and you press aim, the game will usually default on Natla's body. So, as soon as the battle starts, hold aim and then immediately fling your mouse into either direction, which will focus on one of the wings. Also, you should probably wait about a second before you start shooting, because for some reason Natla is invulnerable for about a second after the battle starts. Then, start shooting her. Also, aim jump forwards here, this prevents her from hitting you. When you have around 55 to 60 bullets left, she will run away. If you haven't walked more than around halfway through the room, she will always escape behind this pillar on the back left. Follow her and continue destroying her wings. You can usually dodge her fireball attacks pretty easily by side jumping. Also, in this particular battle, you need to have a very good eye on your ammo. Ideally, we're going to beat the second phase in 2 cycles. In order to get a good 2 cycle, you need at least 22 bullets, and in order to get a slower 2 cycle, you need at the very least 19. When the second phase begins, make sure you reload your 50 caliber weapons and then switch to your regular pistols. Then start shooting Natla while running towards her. You can just jump over her fireballs to avoid them. Roll over her for the headshot. So, normally you're not supposed to be able to beat Natla with the 50 caliber guns in 2 cycles. You can only shoot her so many times before she de-aggroes. We will be abusing a little exploit to make that possible. After the headshot, shoot her in the back exactly 7 times with the regular pistols. You could shoot her more often, but 7 is the maximum amount of bullets that she takes before she de-aggroes. So, she's still aggroed right now. Quickly reload your guns and then get another headshot. Then switch back to the 50 caliber guns and start shooting her with them. That little bit of extra damage that we did with those 7 bullets is just enough to beat her in 2 cycles. After you shoot her 13 times with the 15 caliber guns, she will de-aggro. It's worth keeping track of this so that you don't waste any ammo unnecessarily. In order to get a good second phase, you need to have at least 9 bullets left. Switch to the regular pistols and repeat the same process again. Except this time, after the headshot, you can switch to the 50 caliber weapons and finish the battle. You don't need to do the trick with the 7 regular pistol shots twice, unless that is you do not have 9 50 caliber bullets left. If you only have 6, 7 or 8, you need to repeat the trick here. If you have even less, you can't make it at all. Here's the last quicktime event in the game, and the one that requires the most inputs. It's up, down, down, up, left. It's not technically hard, but it can seem very scary if you're at the end of a run.
What have you really accomplished here? Nothing but a temporary stay of execution for your kind. This island is just one remnant of Atlantis. I will find another. But you, Lara, you have lost everything!
I mentioned in Peru that you can actually press the button as soon as time slows down, not as soon as the button shows up. This is one of those places where you can actually save a second with a specific input here. Fun fact, this is not only the last input in a quicktime event in the game, it's also the only left input in a quicktime event in this game.
No, I haven't.
So even though you could technically Alt F4 through this level transition, we traditionally do not do this. This screen here is considered the end of the run, that's why. Alright, that's it then. We finally made it to the end of the series, and this was a journey. Took me a total of, I don't even know, 8 months. I technically started in April, but then I redid a bunch of stuff. Anyway, it's over. I hope you like my my low FPS grainy face. I'm sorry these videos keep looking so bad, but I keep recording them at night because I keep getting these videos done at night for some reason. And like in the last part, if you're wondering where I recorded the intro footage, this was also an out of bounds area that you can bug jump to, which is like super far away from the map. You have to like bug jump for like 2 solid minutes to get there. There's no audio on this footage because I still had my settings wrong, and I'm absolutely not doing that again. It sucks so bad to bug jump up to that pyramid. But thanks for watching. I once again, as always, I'm gonna give a shout out to the Two-Mana Discord server and the speedrun.com page, where you can find other guides. You can find files and other stuff that you need to run. You can talk to people on the Discord, they will help you. And yeah, thanks for watching this. Now that I'm done, I can actually get back to speedrunning again. I'm gonna be streaming that on my Twitch profile. If you're interested in that, you can watch that there. I'm not doing this category for a while. I'm gonna do some else. Probably 100% or something, or I'm gonna go back to glitchless, I don't know. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Yeah, bye.